Welcome to GameThinkTalk Live. Can we hear him now? Yeah, we can hear him now. My name is Matthew Falvey. This guy right here that I'm in his bedroom is Matthew Owen. Matthew Owen. Matt. How are you, buddy?
I was in my virtual world. I didn't realize you were actually here with me.
It's so immersive. That's right. Oh. I'm here. It's real. It's all real.
What's up?
Video game. That's the secret to video gaming, is that it's all real.
That's the...
Do you understand me?
What are we talking about today, Matt?
What are we talking about today?
About some things?
He wants to know what we're talking about today. Today, we're going to be talking about the games we've been playing. I want to talk about Sonic Mania.
Yeah,
I want to talk about Uncharted and Absolver. And if we have some time, I want to touch on my time with friggin' Absolver, the Devolver digital game. Actually, they published it. But it's got this great feel. Heck, why don't we start off with that? By the way, anyone watching in the chat, leave your questions in the chat, and then we will answer them at the end, and we'll give you a little shout out. Okay.
Yeah, that's the main thing here. You leave your questions there. We'll get to them at the end. We are maybe reading them. I don't know. Matt's dealing with all that.
Yeah.
I'm just along for the ride.
Wonderful. Well, let's go. We'll talk about Sonic Mania.
Tell me about Absolver.
No, we're gonna go Sonic Mania now.
Really? Okay.
Yeah, I want to get you. I want to get you involved. Sonic Mania. Yeah. First, I've only played about half this game. I think this is exactly what the Sonic franchise needed. It needed to just get back to what made Sonic great. Want to make Sonic great again. And I'll tell you, the biggest disappointment I had is that there's not enough new content. Like, I was a little surprised that they remixed all the old stuff. I didn't really think that was necessary. I think they can get away with that here, but every time I kind of played the new stuff, I thought, this would have been more interesting to go through. Like, I didn't need to play Chemical Plant Zone Act 1 again. However, I did like that they would do Chemical Plant Zone Act 1 was like a remaster of the original level, and then and then Act 2 was something brand new. They kind of break down about 3 categories. You've got ones that are basically straight up remakes of the original levels, remasters, and then you got ones that are kind of like remixed, taking elements from the different levels, and then you have ones that are brand new content. So overall, it's the game Sonic needed to show that it could be relevant again, it could be fun. The big question will be, is there enough beyond the nostalgic kind of hit? Do you think people are going to want to see Sonic Mania 2? What do you think?
Oh, you know what? I think Sonic Mania is a good example of how you take like all the original 3 games and you just kind of clock them together in a bunch of different you take a bunch of different aspects of the games, then make it into a cohesive whole. I don't agree with you. I think it's interesting that they have the original levels because of the fact that they have the remixed versions. Yeah. It gives you a good point of comparison. But I do agree that, the new levels have way more interaction, way more animations. I've beaten the entire game, and the end of it is more new stuff. But I don't know. I feel like if they cut out all the original worlds and just left the normal zones or the new zones, it'd be a little bit too short. And I think the amount of animation stuff, this game might have taken a little bit longer to come out. Why you giggling at me?
Why am I giggling? I'm not saying like I'm working at Sega and Christian. Oh, come on, grow up. Grow up. Stop playing Sonic games in your bedroom and grow up.
I'm sorry.
What I was going to say,
is really good.
It was really good. Now, I'm not saying that if I was Mr. Sega, that I'd say, oh, domo arigato for this game, Christian Whitehead. And that's not racist, even though I'm making it sound racist, you whitehead. I'm not saying cut out the original stuff and then just release what you have. Like, obviously make more level, like make more new stuff.
Oh, yeah, no, I get what you're saying. I'm just thinking that the amount of time it would have taken them to make like 6 additional zones with that level of quality of animation and stuff. Yeah, when you're and you have that nostalgia hit. It starts off, it's Green Hill Zone. You know it's Green Hill Zone. Maybe they could have just kept that one. Like I agree with you. There's some of the original game levels that I didn't really feel like playing. Like Hydro City level 1 was not really my forte.
That was not. I mean, Chemical Zone for sure because I love the track. But I would have been happy if they had taken that track and other great tracks and put those over different levels. Because Chemical Plant Zone is not even really all that fun. There's a lot of water. That part where you're trying to get out of the water, like they don't give you very much time at all, which is pretty exhilarating. But it's I had a lot more fun with the new elements of it.
So here's the thing about Sonic Mania, because you said it's like, it proves that Sonic Mania is still relevant. And I do agree that like the 20-year-old game design is still fun. But here's the thing that I noticed even more, because they added all these, you know, there's so many secrets, there's so many added on things. You get the bubble shield and stuff that was in Sonic 3.
Yeah, the fire
shield. Yeah, there's so many things that the whole thing that Sonic's about, which is the speed, gets caught up a little bit. And Sonic, like just normal Mario kind of side scrolling, is not like that great in my opinion. Like I like the idea that you can ping and stuff like that, and it's an open kind of world in comparison to most side scrollers' linearity. Yeah. But Sonic is good when you're going fast. And the most annoying thing about Sonic is when Sonic stops going fast, and Sonic stops going fast quite a bit, towards the later levels.
But in the original trilogy, or however many games they put out in the 16-bit era, the first levels were always very, very fast. And then as it would go on, they would kind of slow you down. There's like that Marble Coliseum level in the first Sonic. And some of the other ones, they would be more puzzly and more platformy, which, you know, as you say, is not the strength. I think maybe here and there, it's good to slow down and take a breath and maybe get you to think. But you're right, Sonic is all about going fast. I thought that they did a really good job, actually, with using more of the... it felt like you were playing a pinball game a lot of the time, where you were just sort of caught in these loops, flipping around, and then having to sort of decide really quick, like left, right, left, right. I thought that was a really interesting... I don't remember if that was actually in the original games, but I enjoyed it a lot here. And like you said...
Some of it was.
Well, and like you said, the branching paths of the levels is a huge strength of Sonic, and was something that we hadn't really seen too much in those early platformers. Like Mario 3 was up in the clouds and up and around, but I mean, Sonic, in the levels that were given that attention, were like labyrinthine, sort of like running through an ant colony.
Well, and that's the thing, is you bring up that, like the original Sonic games did have these platforming areas and stuff like that. And that's what I mean, is that Sonic Mania, for better or for worse, is the best Sonic game that revitalizes it and also celebrates the original series. It's the best that you could ever hope anyone would do. There's no, I can't say playing Sonic Mania like, oh, you know what, I think if they would have taken this direction, maybe it would have been like, no, they did a really, really good job, because they honored what Sonic was. And as I played Sonic, I was like, yeah, this part of Sonic is good, but I never found the parts where Sonic slowed down fun. And that it sticks out even more for me now, because you see all these amazing things they can do with, like you said, the pinballing, with the route changes. Oftentimes you just hit a bumper and then you like let go of the controller, and it's like a Rube Goldberg machine of you flying around all these cool things. Like, that's great. Stopping and getting smushed by moving blocks that only move as you're slowly drowning, like, nothing is fun about that. The fourth time that you have to do that same part, it's in Hydro City. You guys all have done it, and there's the moving blocks and they go really slow and all that stuff. That's not fun. And the fact that Sonic doesn't feel dated, like, you can't go, oh, these are old game design mechanics. Like, the old game design mechanics still work and they're still fun. Those just don't for me. And I feel like the game would have been probably better if they maybe leaned off of the platforming stuff. But like you said, a lot of the old games had those sections, so you can't remake a level without acknowledging those sections existed. Like, you know what I mean? You can't make Hydro City without putting the annoying water part. It would be a disservice, I think.
I think you know, the dynamic, it's okay to slow down every once in a while. And I mean, try to figure out when you feel like you're stuck because you've slowed down. Like, I actually really got stuck. The first night I played Midnight, I was excited, booted up, streamed it, and I played a couple hours, and I actually got to a point where I'm like, I don't even know where I'm supposed to go here. And that's not really a fun feeling in a Sonic game. But I mean, having the dynamic of slowing down a little bit to figure something out, it doesn't need to be like a brain teaser puzzle, but it's okay to have that. If it was just fast all the time, that might be a little bit too much to handle.
No, I'm referring to like what you saw, like being stuck. There's two kinds of Sonics, right? When you're stuck and then you just kind of blasted a wall because it feels like that wall should collapse. I think that happened in your stream. Like when the first, that happens multiple times, and that's okay. You get stuck, but then you're immediately like, woo, you're fast, you're out of there. Like you're stuck for a little. Yeah. But when you literally get stuck and you're like, where am I going? You don't go fast for like 5 minutes. Or not, 5 minutes is a long time, but like 2 or 3 minutes, and you're just like, what? Because either a jump is too difficult to make, or, you know, whatever. Like, those things that slow down the momentum are not made. That's not what Sonic does well. I like with the little combat sections, you don't always have to be going full blast, but you shouldn't be stopping and like, you know, oh, should I go left? Oh, I'm going to go over here. Like, that stuff just doesn't feel as great to me. Did you play Knuckles at all, or did you just stick with Sonic?
Just stuck with classic blue Sonic and Tails. I feel like we've sort of been focusing on the nitpicking aspects of it, but overall, this is the best way they ever could have made the game, and I'm still blown away by this. Oh, visually is fantastic. It was a little more pixelated than I thought, but I mean, when you're playing on HD TVs now, that is what a Sonic game that was put out then is. It. I mean, maybe they could have added a little bit of effect to sort of smooth it just a bit. Nothing too gross, but I appreciate that they went for the full-on tribute.
There's some different
you can add scan lines.
Video. You can add scan lines. I think there's pixel perfect mode as well, which makes every pixel a square. I could be wrong about that.
I might have looked at that and then thought it looked gross, so I just stuck with the classic. Because I mean, there's some emulators where they'll smooth everything out and it kind of looks a bit nasty. But generally speaking, it's not to roll over you, but like we've been nitpicking a lot, and it sounds like you're an asshole. It sounds like it's outrageous.
Hey, that's me. I'm an outrageous kind of guy. It sounds like I'm really bashing on this game, but like that's it. That's like the slowdowns and a frustrating death or two. That's it. That's the only problems I have with this game. Visually, it's amazing. When you get going, it's both a nostalgia grab and, like I said, a revitalization of Sonic has been in the shitter, excuse my French, for the longest time. And then they just released this, which is essentially fans making it, and it's the best Sonic game to come out since Sonic 3 or Sonic and Knuckles, like bar none. It's best Sonic game. It's not, if you like Sonic, not playing Sonic Mania is a huge issue. You should totally play it. Like, you'll enjoy it 100%. I just think now that we have such a good Sonic game, for the first time I can be like, well, here's the inherent issues with Sonic as a formula.
Sure.
Because Sonic actually works and is actually great. So I'm allowed to nitpick instead of complaining about like the 8 million problems that Sonic has had before. Sonic Mania as a game is just, it's a good game. It's a really, really, really good game. And there's tons of unlockables and secrets and collectibles and tons of cool stuff. It really has that retro charm, not just in the way it plays, but in the way with unlockables and, like I said, cheat codes. It's really a blast from the past, but it still works in 2017. Can't lie.
Blast processing from the last year's processing.
The blast.
What I love about it is the story of how this got made. Christian Whitehead was not a trained traditional game developer in the industry. He was a guy that made ROM hacks. And he was a guy that knew how to create a Sonic game from the ground up from years of just practice on his own time. When Sega released a port on the iOS of Sonic 2, and Sonic 2 I think they put out, it was so bad they couldn't, because they ported it. It was so terrible that Whitehead made his own. Sega was so impressed that they hired him and said, "Now do Sonic CD." So this is, you just don't see things like this where the big company will take a chance on a small, unproven, well, I mean, he's proven in what he's shown them, but to hand them this big project, if this ended up being a disaster and they said, well, he just didn't really know how to produce the game, there was too much pressure, you wouldn't have been surprised. But now that it works, you're also not surprised. Well, like, obviously this guy's dedicated his life to learning how to program two-dimensional 16-bit era Sonic games, and he knocked it out of the park. And it's just such a great story for the industry to see that.
I think that them going and outsourcing it to fans and people who actually have a love for the franchise is the most obvious move, regardless of how big the Sonic Mania project was. Let's be honest, it's a win-win for them. The last time that Sega themselves tried to do a 3D Sonic or a 2D Sonic, that was Sonic 4. You guys remember episode 3 of Sonic 4? It didn't even come out, I don't think. Sonic 1 or Sonic 4 episode 1.
It felt awful.
Yeah. They did that, and then they did Generations, and Generations had some cool side-scrolling stuff, but it wasn't anywhere near the retro. At this point, Sega, and I don't think the people who make Sonic are chilling at Sega anymore. It's just like most people who made those games have moved on to other companies, retired, or maybe there's still a few people there, but the team isn't there. So what can Sega do? Release another shitty Sonic game, which will surprise no one and hurt the franchise even more. Take a gamble, like you said, with somebody who's done this his entire life, and this is like what he likes to do. And then maybe have a good Sonic was never going to get good unless they took a chance. Yeah. Because Sega's been doing the same crap and they've just been following industry standards for a while. So, I mean, with how well games like Shovel Knight do, when you actually give some passion and some love to the 2D, like, they can still shine. So it was just Sega finding the right person. And I think they were looking inside the company too much instead of going like, well, let's see what else other people can do who aren't maybe working here. People used to do that in the old days of gaming. They would find good programmers and they'd go out and recruit them. Now it's like they want people to come to them. So, hey, what are you going to do?
Well, that had happened with, I think when the producer took over for Final Fantasy 15, I believe, he had said that they had gotten a bit cocky with the franchise. They thought that whoever worked on a Final Fantasy game could write their ticket. Everyone wanted to work on a game because, like, in the Japanese gaming industry, that was what you wanted on your resume. And they had figured whatever we do, people are going to love. And they realized with 13, they got the first bit of backlash. I'm a 13 defender of the battle system, but I can totally understand that not everybody wants to play through bad 20 hours to get to the good part, but that's something
the issue with it,
and that's something that Square Enix had learned that they needed to sort of, and I think they're still learning with Final Fantasy 15, which had a pretty mediocre reception as well. There are people that like some of the elements.
I still haven't finished it. I'm waiting for them to finish the game. You know,
yeah,
like, I want to be able to drive my car.
Well, they've only had,
I'm pretty sure that's a thing now.
10 years. All right. Well, let's move on from Sonic. I could talk a little bit about Absolver. This is a game I got to
give
play.
Me this Absolver thing.
Absolver, published by Devolver Digital, is a game all about hand-to-hand combat. It takes place in sort of an it takes place in sort of an abstract world. They wear these sort of like almost like old hockey goalie helmets. These sort of like Jason masks. It is a very, very intricate, finely tuned, competitive hand-to-hand melee game, Matt, and it's
like Nidhogg.
It's like Nidhogg,
but without the swords.
But Nidhogg is nice and simple, and Nidhogg is like what you see is what you get. You can see everything on the screen. Absolver is all about these combos where you can use your straight up normal attacks, but then you have 4 different forms, and chaining from one form to the other is what the game is all about. And then the progression system is all about unlocking those forms and then programming them in and setting up these combos or doing them on the fly. It's it really captures sort of the hard-hitting feel of melee combat. Been in one fight. But it really treats it with a kind of artistic respect. It's generally almost, there's hardly any music at all for most of it. It's just focusing on sort of like the crunch of the ground, the shuffle of the body, like the impact of the fists, the blocking, the counters. There are several different play styles. The easiest one you can choose is where you can absorb an attack by blocking it at the right time, and then that gives you more power, or you can do a counter, or you can be a dodger, which is a lot more difficult. It's all about online play and being competitive. This is a very sort of almost like For Honor in a way, except a lot more focused on one-on-one.
Yeah, I was gonna say you said it's a lot about taking these different forms and linking them together with the combos. Are these like combos that are laid out for you that you're gonna learn to link together, or is it just taking bare bones kind of punches and stuff and making your own combos? You know, there's a difference between a combo system like a Mortal Kombat or a Street Fighter and a combo system like Super Smash Brothers, where there is no combos, you make your own essentially.
It's more like a 3D fighter in the way that it's like I had a pretty limited time with it. I was messing with the tutorial and messing around with some others. And from talking to people that have played it a little further, it's all about unlocking these sort of already existing combos and then switching between the forms. But there's still plenty of room for like dodging. There's like an actual like a great little feint button. So it comes down to it's like an amazing duel, which is, it just does a really good job of what a hand-to-hand fantasy artistic idea of a duel would be. I mean, we know that real fist fights are people grabbing each other and getting on the ground, and this is if you love martial arts movies and dueling and that sort of samurai kind of aspect of it. If you like the one-on-one in For Honor and you like this is so intricate, then you're going to find a lot to love here. It's a very, very deep game. This is for people that adore competitive fighting. I am more of a Nidhogg fan. I like it to be a little more simple, a little goofy, faster. I don't want to have to learn a lot and memorize a lot of things. If I'm if I'm going to spend time training to fight, it's not going to be in a virtual world. I would probably go rather learn a real move in real life. But I do love a good fighting game that's just kind of fun. Like I would rather play classic Street Fighter 2 where I don't have to teach people how to do like super ultra combos.
Is there any arcade component to it, or is it strictly all competitive? I mean, can you fight against? I'm assuming you can fight against bots to practice, but is there any sort of ladder or single player? Not a campaign, I wouldn't assume, but like any sort of progression like that.
To be honest, I don't know. Other than, I mean, there's the tutorial and there's the single player elements that you can walk through, but it seems to be really heavily geared towards one-on-one combat in the online. You can participate with a friend. You can do co-op, and you can explore the world and unlock different areas and attack different bots.
That sounds cool.
It is, yeah. That is actually really fun. It's kind of like teaming up with Bruce Lee and just like beating these people down. It's a very, very different game, and it does a fantastic job of putting you in this different world with just the overall production of it. Like I said, that minimalistic sound, the abstract shapes. It's got a mysterious quality to it. It's very unique. It's a really interesting game. But just be prepared. This is not for button mashers. You're not going to get very far. This is for people that want to dig deep into competitive fighting.
As someone who likes fighters, what platforms is this on? PC, I'm assuming PS4?
This is going to be on PC, PS4, and probably Xbox One.
Yeah, Devolver does pretty much go out. What did you play it on?
I played it on PC with an Xbox One controller. Hey,
well, that's the best controller there is, my guy.
Unfortunately, PlayStation 4 and Microsoft Windows.
Okay. Yeah, no, it makes sense. I mean, Xbox, if you're going to make something for Windows, is easy enough. Absolver sounds fun, and I like Devolver. For a second, I thought that you were talking about, I think it's called Ruiner. Maybe that's the one that they showed off at their E3 thing.
Yeah, they're more like top-down. That one looks fantastic as well.
Yeah, I hear that's coming out soon, I believe. You know what? If you're done with Absolver,
yeah, I'm done.
How about let's flip up the words a little bit. Observer.
All right.
Have you ever played Layers of Fear, my guy?
No.
So Layers of Fear is a game where you're in a painter's house who has lost his mind, and it's like a kind of like half walking sim, half horror game. You don't really interact with a lot of stuff, but the whole thing about Layers of Fear is that it's psychedelic. You'll turn around and a door you just came through won't be there, and then you'll turn around again and you're in a whole nother room, right? Mm-hmm. So that was really, really cool. It had a good artistic direction with the painting and all that stuff. Observer is Bloober Team who made Layers of Fear. It's their second game. Maybe it's their third, but it's their second game. And instead of taking like artsy painting and kind of trying to subvert that, what they've done is they've created a world that is so Orwellian and just tech heavy. It's cyberpunk to the nth degree. You play as a
baby, my favorite thing ever.
You play as a detective. It's a first-person narrative experience. Here's what I'll say originally, right off the bat. If you're thinking about it, if you're like, oh my god, I love those kind of things. If you have PC, you might want to play it on PC because the performance on Xbox and PS4 right now, well, just Xbox. That's the only thing, excuse me, I can speak on because I played it on Xbox. But unless you have a PS4 Pro, I'm sure it's going to be the same thing. The performance is not that great. And that's because there's so much stuff going on in this game. There's a plethora of lighting effects. There's just so many filters and so many great visual modifications to make the world look really, really good. And that's because it's very neon. It's very lived in. But the whole point is you play as this guy named Daniel Lazarski. He's a detective. It's kind of like Deus Ex on crack. If you've never played Deus Ex, people have a lot of augmentations. It's so common that it's weird for someone to not have some sort of augmentation, biometrics and stuff like that. So you play as Daniel Lazarski. He's this cop, this detective. He gets a call from his missing son saying, hey, come to this apartment. And you go there. It's in a C-class apartment. Think of like Hunger Games, where there's different districts kind of. So like,
would they be poor? They're on like the third level down?
C-class is like the worst. B class is all right. A class is like the upper tier. But a lot of the game is in the C class because what happens is you enter this apartment building. You discover a body. And then the building goes into lockdown mode, which means you cannot leave. And you have this large multi-leveled apartment building where you're walking around and you're trying to solve this murder while also talking to other residents. The thing is, the game is very, very, very dark. But the game also, if you've ever played a game like Eternal Darkness for the GameCube, it messes with your perception of reality. There's in the background, the game is kind of convoluted in its storytelling, but there's like something called the nanophage, and it's like kind of like corruption of the mind, et cetera, et cetera. And as the detective, if you get too much stress, you start to desynchronize, whatever that means, and you take this little pill. And here's the thing about Observer is because it's so tech heavy, a lot of their ways that they make you uncomfortable, a lot of the ways that they incite kind of just general uncomfort, because the game isn't full front horror, it's more like a crime thriller, but just grating noises, things that would really annoy me and you are things like half finished textures that are all layered on top of each other it's really esoteric,
but done on purpose.
Yeah. So there's two kind of main ways that you play, not ways you play this game. There's two kind of worlds in this game, right? There's the actual apartment building you're in, which is, for lack of a better word, a complete shithole. You walk around here and you'll talk to people. They have these little screens on the front of their apartment doors, and you'll talk to them, and it'll kind of be like a video conversation. But the detective, since it's in the future, the year is 2084, I believe, he has these different kind of vision scanners. You can scan all sort of tech, you can scan biometrics, and you kind of do this Batman Arkham detective stuff. But the best thing he can do is he can pull this little wire out of his, he has like a gauntlet kind of thing, a tech gauntlet, and he can plug into these people's necks because everyone has these implants.
Oh, yeah.
And then you go into their brains, and in there, like I said, since the aesthetic is so tech heavy, that's where they just go wild. You know, it's a bunch of geometric shapes that'll fly at you at once. Just everything's flickering.
And this is a visual representation of somebody's brain, sort of like Inception style. You're in someone's dream world.
Yeah, but it's very, very busted. Just imagine. I don't know if you've ever played. Maybe any of our viewers, or you probably for sure, if you've ever played a game and then everything's just completely gone whack, like, oh my God, something's messed up in this game. Yeah. Everything's busted. That's what they're going for, but doing it intentionally to build tension. And like you're walking in one part, you're just walking through an office building, right? And it's, you know, it's spooky, and you're in someone's brain, and then the lights pop up, and there's just a ton of workers, and they're all like they're black shadows, but they're like fidgeting all over the place. Essentially, it's not really that scary of a texture, but when all of a sudden, you know, 300 textures just pop in around you and they're all glitching out and freaking, it's really, really unsettling. That's the best word I can give this game, is unsettling, but it's super interesting visually because of all the weird things they do. If you're a fan of, I guess, game tech in general, I mean, if you're a fan of tech and tech horror and cyberpunk kind of stuff, you'll really enjoy the aesthetics. I'm not sure exactly how much you'll enjoy the storytelling and the whole search for clues sort of ordeal, but when it comes to a visual style, man, Bloober Team is on it. They know what they're doing. Not only can they create a very tense environment, but they know exactly how to layer audio and just a bunch of stuff to just really grate at you. Yeah, it's very abrasive. In a word, it's abrasive. It's overwhelming. It's in your face. It's very... I play a lot of horror games, Matt. You know this. I don't get scared by a lot of horror games. This game doesn't... I mean, it's spooky, but it doesn't scare me. It's just so much. It's so overwhelming that after, like, you know, 40, 50 minutes, an hour of playing, I was playing last night with my buddy, and there was like 5 minutes straight of just the super in-your-face stuff, and I was like, I paused. I'm like, I can't do this anymore. It's so much at once, and it's not bad. It's like a good kind of overwhelming.
Okay, kind of like Thumper.
A lot of it. Yeah. It's not as psychedelic as that. It's very dirty. But
just the overall feeling of like it's so much, but in a good way.
It's like Polybius or something like that. It's like Doctor. It's like Deus Ex, but dirtier and darker.
This sounds amazing.
There's a lot of. It's very, very good. It plays kind of like, you know, like not a Firewatch, but, you know, a What Remains of Edith Finch or a Gone Home. You know, there's very minimal interaction.
Oh my God, you're ticking all my boxes so hard.
But the thing is the performance on console is very, very, very shoddy. You know, like I've had freeze ups and stuff. So if it's on PC, this is the kind of game where, like, if the performance was way better, oh my God, it would be almost perfect. Yeah. But the fact that it's if you can play on PC and it runs well, and you have a boss of a PC, check out the specs, Matt. This would totally be up your alley. Like, it's just that there's so much going on that you really have to have a rig to sustain it. I don't know right now with the way it runs on consoles, at least Xbox One, if I can fully recommend you play it. It might be one of those, like, wait a month and see if they put out a patch. But also maybe just we're getting to that point where game systems can't really handle brand new games. Like Agents of Mayhem was chugging all over the place, and that's just seemed like it's because
it depends
the console
where
can handle it.
Yeah, it depends where it was first developed for. I mean, if they're going for PC first, now that the consoles have been out for so long, they're like you said, we're just kind of hitting that thing. We're like, all right, they're not so shiny and new anymore.
And Bloober is a PC first, so
yeah. And that 4 gigabytes of RAM or whatever they got in there. I don't know if they even have 8 gigabytes on the consoles now. They must have 8 now, but I have no clue. Yeah, there's bottlenecks. There's definitely bottlenecks. I had first saw this on the terminal we all frequent to pick up review copies, And I remember seeing something about like hacking, and there's just been so many games that have come out where it's like, oh, I love the premise, Cyberpunk, great, and then it's always this sort of hacking, and I don't want that to be the main gameplay.
It's not.
I'm not very smart when it comes to figuring out hacking and those kind of puzzles. But from what you're saying, this sounds completely nothing at all about hacking, first person, narrative, every kind of aesthetic I like. So I'm definitely going to be grabbing this game. I'll just see if I can put it on the PC.
I'm trying to think. Like, I don't know why they would even say hacking, because you don't hack. Like, you don't.
Okay,
there's no
that's
hack
my mistake
element
then.
at all. Well, it's maybe. I mean, there's the hacker aesthetic because you have weird things like. The game is weird in general. Even when you're in the normal apartment, it's so futuristic that you have like, wallpaper is like lines of code that's sticking out and stuff like that.
All right.
And like, so it has that hacker aesthetic, but
yeah,
I mean, not in gameplay. In gameplay, it's a narrative experience that's a little bit horror. I think you'll really like it just for the style, Matt.
Fantastic.
There'll be a full review up probably within the week
All
on
right.
the 90skid.com.
Now, today I played Uncharted Lost Legacy. I played about 2.5 hours of this game.
I'm going to play that tonight. I'm so excited.
Zero spoilers. By the way, I was trying to decide, should I buy this on PSN so I can play it Monday at midnight, or should I get it on Amazon Prime? I get a 10% discount. They used to have 20% discount for pre-orders and the first 2 weeks of the game. They got rid. Now it's just pre-orders, and now it's 10%. Especially for Canadians, we got hit by that first. And
you lucked out though, boy.
Yeah, well, I thought it was going to come, Tuesday sometime, and I wouldn't be able to do it for my Tuesday morning stream at 9:30 a.m. Eastern time. However, I was still surprised. I opened up this box. I had my red light bulbs for my horror stream coming up, and then there it was, just sitting in the box. I'm like, this is crazy. The game is not out yet. This is the earliest way you can get it. Yeah, when I do a horror stream, I want to have red light bulbs because it'll be really creepy.
What game are you playing? I love horror games.
People have suggested I play Silent Hill, and then or maybe some newer ones. But
have you ever played Silent Hill?
No, I want a horror game that's not about jump scares. I want tension.
You don't want to play Silent Hill. Trust me on that. If you have not played Silent Hill, it's just gameplay wise, it does not age well. Maybe play like Silent Hill 4, but Silent Hill 1, you'll maybe get like 20 minutes in and then really not like at all. If people want to see it, go for it. But we do, like with our streaming group, we do October, we play a bunch of horror games, and Silent Hill was one of the ones that just dragged for a really long time because the game starts to really, the age starts to shine.
Yeah, you almost want to keep Observer. A walkthrough open. Observer, yeah, that could be great, actually. You think that would be fitting for red lights?
There's a lot of lights in that game, but Observer is a horror game. Go for it. But I didn't mean to cut you off. Continue what you were saying.
Oh, yeah. So anyways, I got the game, and it ended up being, I thought it was going to be the slowest way to get the game, and it ended up being the fastest way to get the game. So Amazon Prime.
I've heard this before.
But I've also heard from other people that sometimes Amazon Prime doesn't get it. I don't know why I'm saying Prime. Amazon will sometimes give you the game late, like a day later. So it's probably hit or miss. Anyways, Uncharted Lost Legacy. It's it's more Uncharted, obviously, because it is a expansion on that same engine. You can really tell that Chloe's character of Uncharted 4, Chloe's character, she was in Uncharted 2 or 3. She's the sort of the female equivalent of Nathan Drake, a little bit of a dastardly, the brunette. His love interest in either the second or third game, the more like dangerous one, who does his kind of job, and they double
three, I think.
Yeah, they double cross each other and all that stuff. You can really tell she was created from the ground up, or maybe they took the old models, like the remastered models, and put her in, because compared to Nadine, who's from Uncharted 4, Nadine looks amazing because she did in Uncharted 4, but Chloe, you're like, your face looks odd. I'm not saying she needs to be beautiful, but it's not that she's not beautiful. It's that facially she looks a little bit grotesque because it's just not capturing what a human face looks like.
Uncharted does that so well. So when you take somebody who like looks really well, like LA Noire level, and then somebody who's just a teeny bit less, it's gonna outshine. So, but is it at least serviceable? Like it's not really terrible.
It's okay. It's just noticeable especially when and they spend so much time together because the game focuses on them. The relationship between these two girls, from what I've seen so far, is extremely interesting. They hint at what's going on in Chloe's past. And you get the feeling like this partnership, both of them don't really trust each other. which is a really fun dynamic, but obviously are going to have to rely on each other because they're going on this big Uncharted type mission together.
Can I cut you off real quick?
Go for it.
Let's hypothetically assume, not hypothetically, it's totally true, that I've forgotten almost everything there is to forget about Uncharted. Can I still enjoy this game? Because it did start as a DLC for Uncharted 4. Should you really play Uncharted 4 before you play on Lost Legacy, or can you just go in blind? Because Drake's not in it, as far as I understand. It's a brand new character. Do they set these characters up, or is there enough knowledge that they don't let be implied that you can just play it without playing any other Uncharted games? Or is it?
I mean, like I said, I've played about 3 hours of it, and from what I've seen so far, these characters work really well because they were side characters in the previous games, and there wasn't a lot known about them, and they didn't have a lot to do with the main plot. And even I would say until Uncharted 4, there wasn't really anything important happening. It was all just kind of like 2 and 3. Haven't even played 1. Were very pulpy. You didn't leave going like, oh, that story moment was important. 4 had heavy emotional moments where it really
3
mattered.
And 4 is when they like bumped up cinematically. 1 and 2 were kind of more like set piece moments without the cinematic.
There wasn't the emotional punch in 2. It was cool and it was exciting, but it wasn't. It didn't really kind of hit you in the heart, at least for me. Whereas 4 did. But this one, like I said about Chloe's past being this mysterious thing that I'm feeling is going to be like an onion they keep hinting at moments in her past, and you can see this look on her face about it. So I'm assuming that works, that it's a mystery. I don't remember anything about Chloe, anything to do with her and Nathan, other than they probably kind of fooled around and worked together and double-crossed. I'm
more asking, like, as a story, because I know it's just these two girls. Like, is the story? We're not trying to spoil anything, but Uncharted usually follows the formula of like mystic civilization, cool artifact, investigate, set pieces, puzzles. What I'm asking is, if you've never played Uncharted 1, 2, 3, or 4, can you go into this and enjoy the story, or is it like we have to go to the lost Malaysia temples and like, oh, remember that in Uncharted 2? And like, you've only played so much of it, but does it really feel like its own thing, or is it tied to the story in a sort of integral way? I
feel like it definitely feels like its own thing, but I would recommend that if you haven't played Uncharted 2, 3, and 4, they're not
like, what are you doing?
They're not expensive right now. I mean, you can get like you could sign up for PS Now and you could whip through 2 and 3 in a weekend or 2 weekends. You can even use the trial or pay for it, or you could grab the remaster collection, or you could buy the older copies. They're worth going through, and they're not super expensive. And I'm assuming there's going to be a bit more later on that's going to throw back. Like, the only mention they've talked about in the previous game is that Chloe said Drake's not in the picture. And then they kind of hinted at Nadine not working for where she previously worked for. But it definitely feels like their own adventure. But I still think, I'm assuming later on there's going to be more. And also, you should just play the previous Uncharted games, because this game is just more of the same. And 2, 3, and 4 are can't miss games, in my opinion.
Probably do it a little bit better anyways. While we're doing this, brief sidebar, extremely brief sidebar. If you've never played God of War 1, 2, and 3, you should do that.
Never played
them. Oh my God, Matt, you need to play Uncharted. You need
Uncharted
to play God
of War.
You need to at least play God of War 3. God of War 3 is like, that's the game that made Uncharted a run for its money. Like, God of War 3 is cinematic, and the way they do scale in the God of War series is just so insanely cool. I don't know if it holds up. I'm just saying, you should totally play it. I kind of want to play it again too.
I found it at a garage sale for a couple $, so I have God of War sitting there. God of War 3.
Nice, dude. Nice.
All right, well, that's all I've got on Lost Legacy so far. 1 and 2? Okay. What else can we talk about? I played a little bit of Nidhogg 2. They changed the graphical style quite a bit. A lot of people are saying it's pretty ugly. They look like sort of ugly, piggly, wiggly people. Something straight out of like a Rick and Morty episode. But it
went from like very pixelated to now there's some sort of animation, some facial stuff.
Yeah.
It's weird.
But I think it fits it. I mean, it's such a goofy, like oogly boogly kind of game that I think the visual style fits it perfectly. I saw a lot of people in Steam reviews just ripping it apart for why it looked the way it did, but I think...
Well, Nidhogg 1 was very minimalist, so maybe people were just expecting that from Nidhogg 2.
Yeah, but it's the same thing. If you like Nidhogg, there's more of it, and they just changed the visuals, so I don't see how that could.
Is there no like new moves or any new characters? Obviously, there's new stages. Like that's the big thing. But
I didn't play Nidhogg 1, so I mean, you can do the high, medium, low, and you can throw your weapon. They have ranged attacks. You can roll. You can jump, and that's about it. Yeah, there's a bow and arrow.
Weapons? Okay, that's new.
That's new?
I didn't play. Okay, I played maybe like 2 hours of Nidhogg 1, all competitive, against like a few friends. So I could be misremembering, but
I mean,
yeah,
that's what Nidhogg is all about. Nidhogg is about throwing it on and having fun for 45 seconds or more.
Oh yeah.
You know, it's not. It's yeah. I don't think you need to play much more than to really get the gist of it. That's the game. You learn the gameplay loop right away.
You're not going to be fully invested in the Nidhogg lore. You know what I mean? Like it's a game that you're just playing to play.
You're playing it wrong. All right. Well, that's I believe it's going to do it. You know what? We said that we would answer any questions that were in the chat, and nobody had any questions. The one question we had was a little bit off topic. However, since this is the first time that we're doing it, and it is a question from Dashy is Cool.
What's up, Dashy is Cool?
How do you feel about all the live streams you've done and the gameplay? Do you feel happy, sad, or angry?
Matt, I'm gonna be the interviewer here, okay?
Yeah.
This is gonna be
Matt, I mean, you're a live streamer as well, so I would appreciate your feedback, and you've been doing it longer than I have, so.
Well, that's what I'm saying is that you're new to this.
Yes.
In the sort of, you weren't like fully into the streaming culture before. As you've kind of found through, do you now, because I remember we talked about it before, you never really understood the whole, why do people watch people play games, you know?
Yeah,
like, you can get that, but you never saw the whole phenomenon. Now that you are on both sides, where I'm sure you've seen a stream or two of mine, you probably watched back your own streams for quality, but you've been there in the chair. Can you now understand why things like Twitch and YouTube gaming are so popular, how it creates almost like a sub-community within yourself, and then it's, it's really truly like playing a video game, because with other people, one of the things that I found out while streaming is when we first started, I found out that people really like to watch other people eat food on cam. I mean, there's a whole like sexual fetish kind of thing for that, but generally speaking, we'd be like, hey, we're going to take a pizza break, and our viewers would be like, why don't you just eat on cam? And that's because when people are watching you stream, they really feel like they're hanging out with somebody. And for the longest time, I didn't get that. I'm like, why would you want to watch me eat a pizza? It's because they're also at home eating a snack, and then we just start chatting about random stuff, and that's kind of what made me understand the whole culture. Yeah. So now that you've been here, like, what's the most rewarding thing you've pulled from streaming? You know, is it the sub community? Is it the fans? Do you like the fame, or do you just like being able to ask people for advice? Do you like what's your get? Everyone gets something out of streaming. I like being in the center of attention, and I also like playing old games and having an excuse to. So that's me, very selfish, but that's why I do it. What's your reason?
I'd say the big two are, you know, like people say, pleasure shared is pleasure doubled. There is
completely
like a wonderful feeling of like experiencing something with other people, and also really heightening that experience in ways where you get expert advice, you can come up with solutions together. Final Fantasy 13 was a great one for us to stream because we were doing an underleveled run. There were bosses that we were just banging our heads against. That the biggest problem we had, it wasn't a problem, is that we couldn't beat this boss for 4 days. And I've never played a game where I lost for 4 days and had so much fun, and it's obviously a huge part due to the combat system, but it was because every loss was just tweaking it within the group and coming up with solutions, and people, and just trying what everybody said, and in the end, the solution that we had was something we never would have considered in the beginning, and never would have done if we had sort of grinded our way up higher and didn't have to worry about it. And then
now here's two.
Yeah.
Oh, go ahead.
And then keep going.
Yeah. Okay. All right. I'll go. Here's two questions. Well, one's more of a suggestion because I'd like to see how it played out. Now that you've streamed Final Fantasy. Most of our audience is pulled in from Final Fantasy. You got a few Undertale people in there. I see you've been doing Catherine recently. A lot of Japanese games. If there was one game, maybe a nostalgia game from your childhood, or if there was just one game that you know isn't going to be like a 2-parter, maybe like a 5 or 6 or a 10-parter playthrough.
Yeah.
If there was one game you could do just for you, what game?
Shadowrun.
I know it's very difficult. Okay, yeah, there it is.
Shadowrun for the Sega Genesis, because it's. I would love to play that game. I'd love to share that with people, but I just don't think anybody would really care.
Now, here's another thing, and this is something that we really have to gauge our audience on. And I do want to hear in the Discord, when you watch this back, I want to see comments. Next time we do it, I want to hear this. There's several games that utilize Twitch integration. Games like Cluster Truck, games like the Jackbox Party, or whatever the hell it's called. Games like the newer Telltale games, where you can turn on for Telltale, for example. If you've never played Telltale, they're kind of like point and clicks, but they're more of cinematic adventures. You can turn on a code, and
the
then
chat will remember
code,
that.
Yeah, they can go on their phone, and then they can also choose.
Right.
So when a dialogue option comes up, games like Jackbox Party, you start at home, but then everybody else on stream is playing along with you. Do you think you'd want to try one of those?
Absolutely.
Yeah, because,
absolutely.
But that's. It 100% comes down to whether or not the audience, because there's nothing worse than starting up Jackbox Party and then playing against like one person. Like, it's not very fun. So it's very much something the community would have to be involved in. That's one of the things that I see a lot of people have a lot of fun with, is just because you're truly playing a game together at that point.
Yeah, and there was another, what was the second part of that? It was sort of sharing with other people. Oh, kind of having a reason to go back and play a lot of the classic games, because there are so many games. There are so many games made in the last 15 years that nobody is able to play them all. And everybody has this growing backlog that you'll never be able to get to. You really have to make some tough decisions. Some tough first
250, I think.
Of course. And someone could, in the chat, could mention 5 more that you should add that you've probably never heard of that are amazing. Yeah. So kind of having a reason to go through that and with other people, and also, like, I love when I see somebody play a game in, say, 2017 that came out 10 years ago or 20 years ago, and seeing how does that game hold up? Is it actually that interesting? And that's one of the reasons why I would love to play Shadowrun now, even though it's a long game and it's got some grindy elements to it, but it just has such a great universe, and that Genesis version really captured that universe so well. It perfectly translated D&D into real time with random mission generators. It was an open world. You could just do side quests forever. It had such a complex hierarchy of like the different gangs, the mafia, the yakuza, the illegal weapons. Oh my god, it was just such a great game, and I would love to be able to.
You really enjoy it.
I love it. It's easily my favorite game of all time. We had another question, actually.
Oh, sweet.
This is from Angel of Death, the guy who was...
What's up, Angel of Death?
Angel of Death, Army of God, was on our very first Final Fantasy stream, I believe, and he says...
I remember him from back in the day. Oh, yeah. I remember him as one of the oldies.
He is. He's been a fantastic, positive influence all the time. He's actually the one that always encourages me to stream music in between the game streams, and that's become a really regular thing. So,
music's fun.
It is. It's nice to hang out and listen to music and chat. His question is, which Metal Gear Solid do you like the most, and what's your thoughts on Metal Gear Solid 5? Now, I just talked a lot, Matt, so do you have an answer for this?
Yeah, I'm looking around my room for the copy of Metal Gear Solid 5 that I bought 2 years ago and still haven't played.
Oh, wow. That sucks, because now you could have bought it for like $5. I just lost you on Skype, Matt, so what I'm going to do is I am going to answer this question while we wait for Matt to unfreeze. All right. So my favorite Metal Gear Solid is... Metal Gear Solid 1 is such a great nostalgia trip. I like the length of it. It's pretty quick. It delves into some of the crazy Hideo Kojima stuff, but it doesn't... well, we lost him. Let's give him a call back. But it also does a great job of... Let's get rid of that. But it kind of explores that Hideo Kojima crazy side of Metal Gear Solid without sort of getting too far into it and getting too over the top. Now, and it was the first one that I played, so I have a lot of nostalgic attachment to it. It's one of those games that when I was done playing in 1998, I remember putting down my controller and just thinking, wow, I'd never played a game like that. There were so many memorable moments that broke the fourth wall in a great way. And just explored how to use a PlayStation console, how to use everything about it, how to use the back of the jewel case, how to use the DualShock, how to make you switch your controller port. It's just every element of the console was utilized, and that's not something that we really ever see people use again nowadays. And you think that people would have explored that so much, but they haven't at all. Metal Gear Solid 2, I I was one of those ones that played the first half and thought, Raiden, why do I have to relearn how to play the game? And I actually stopped playing. I didn't like the switch to Raiden at all, enough to get to when it switches around and then really starts breaking the universe. And that game was another really that was when Kojima went a little further and just explored even more. 3 was sort of a throwback. I didn't like the more like slow pace of Metal Gear Solid 3. I didn't like in that era. Everybody was obsessed with realism in that era. That was when Grand Theft Auto San Andreas had come out, when I think Shenmue was out around that. Shenmue was a little bit earlier, but it was all about, let's make games as realistic as possible because now we can. So people thought it was interesting to like buy food and work out or make your character look bigger. And Metal Gear Solid 3 was all about finding snakes and eating animals and that kind of thing and opening up submenus and stuff to access it. I didn't find that interesting. I like that they explored that in gaming, but I'm more of a fan of streamlining things out that I find tedious. So, Metal Gear Solid 4, I think, only really works if you played the previous Metal Gear Solids, and I think that it commits too many crimes of like 25-minute long cutscenes and odd pacing. It's still a great game, and it's a great reward if you've played the previous series, but it's great, but it requires the previous 3 games to be that great. So I would personally put Metal Gear Solid 1 above that. And then Metal Gear Solid 5, Phantom Pain, was exactly what I think he needed to do. He stuck down with gameplay. Everything was done with sort of audio conversations and listening to cassettes. So everything was multitasking. You could, while you were waiting for like an alert or for guards to move around, you could listen to this audio conversation. You could advance the story while participating. The controls were nailed. The way it would. Oh, there's our Matty. Let's bring him back in. Okay, is he there? I don't see him, but maybe he'll come back. There he is. He's on his phone. Okay. Okay. Hey, well, hang on a second, Matty. I'm going to pop you in here. Oh, there he is. Matt's in his garage. All right, Matt. Let's hear about your favorite Metal Gear Solid and thoughts on Metal Gear Solid 5.
Metal Gear Solid 5, I played like an hour of it. I bought it for $12 on a sale, and then never got around to it. It's very open, and I like that Metal Gear Solid 5 has its own kind of ways of going about playing the game, and really it allows a lot of options that the other ones don't. But I remember Metal Gear Solid 1 the best. And I would say just because of the nostalgia factor, because I'm the kind of person who's not very good at games at all. That are, well, not games, stealth games specifically. I'm really good at games, I promise. Metal Gear Solid 1 was easy enough for me to kind of work through, and I liked some of the more interesting ways that they did bosses and, smoking the cigarette to find the lasers and all that kind of stuff. I like that. I think Metal Gear Solid 1 is really good. I've heard 3 is like the best, but I really never played
I think that 1 and 3 are a lot more similar. They're more just like straight up gameplay. They're more 3 was the almost like an apologetic throwback, like let's just have fun. One presented 2 ideas: Snake as this action hero, cinematic action hero like we've never seen before in video games. It also presented the idea of messing with the world, breaking the fourth wall. 2 went the way of subverting what an action hero would be and totally messing with the world. Lines of code coming through the screen, talking about like what it is to play a video game. And then 3 was like, all right, forget all that. He's just a good old action hero. He has a James Bond theme song. He's going to get the girl. And it was, if you like, it depends what side of Metal Gear Solid you wanted to go. He sort of presented you these different options.
Did you ever play 4?
Yeah, 4, I was just talking about it when you were off, 4 is great, but only if you've played the previous 3. Like, talk about callbacks, old characters coming back, and I mean, I
think 5. I think 5 was good for both the newcomer audience they were trying to pull for and the fans that really liked the series a lot. I think 4 was just like too cinematic-y, too complex for those who were just trying to hop on. Because remember, 4 was like the big PlayStation 3 Metal Gear Solid game. Yeah. But a lot of people just didn't get it, and I think they did a way better job this time around with 5. So
Yeah, well, with 5, I mean, the controls were beautiful. The systems were great. The problem was just everything that Konami had to do with it. They rushed it out, so the second half was pretty lackluster. However, I still think that even at full price, the game is worth it just for the first half, even before it gets a little like dodgy near the end. And also, Konami also has a problem with, they slowly were integrating, they would just, you'd turn on your thing and all of a sudden there'd be this new rule to the online thing. Like, now your bases can get raided when you're offline. You better pay us money to get insurance for them. And they were doing a lot of shady online stuff. But I still think that the missions and what they do for that first half of the game is totally worth the price of admission. Now you can buy it for so cheap. I think everybody should play it. So for me, to answer Angel Death's question, Metal Gear Solid 1, I think, is always going to be the one I like for nostalgia, for it being a trim, slim experience. A lot of people at the time said, if you skip the cutscenes, this game is only like 5 hours long, maybe less.
Yeah, that's the best part.
But I think that's fine. And it's also sort of Kojima at his, with a bit of restraint, not letting him just go crazy and do everything he wanted. So did you have a favorite? Did you say 1 would be yours?
Yeah, I played a lot of 2 as well, but I think 2, with the ride and stuff, and then all that, like it's okay. I think it got a bad rap because of the way they marketed it and kind of pulled one over on the fans.
It was Kojima saying, "Oh, you want him to be the superhero, the action hero," and like they just totally messed with everybody. I totally fell for it.
Yeah. No, I like MGS2's kind of gameplay, but I think MGS1 has a better. I don't think Metal Gear Solid will ever reach, well, maybe that's wrong of me to say, but I think the best thing that Metal Gear Solid has truly reached is like the whole look on the back of the case for Meryl's, I don't know her name.
Meryl.
Meryl. Yeah, her Kodak thing. Yeah, it's really good. And you got like Revolver Ocelot, you got all these, Sniper Wolf, come on now.
Yeah.
Come on now.
It's got everything.
Metal Gear. It's a really good one. Do we get any other questions?
Yes, you did. Yes, we did. And you should play 5. It's fantastic. Ryan Johnson had said about he was asking about video game soundtracks, but we're going to finish off with Angel of Death. He says that Metal Gear Solid 5 has the same mechanics, exploration, etc., but they have more realistic elements into it. Maybe, but haven't played it. What is Metal Gear Rising? And Ryan Johnson responded, that was made by Platinum Games. It's an action game replay as Raiden. So Ryan Johnson's question was, he said, if you have time, Ryan Johnson says, a nice guy, it'd be nice to know both of your favorite video game soundtracks. I have one off the top of my head if you need some time to think.
Yeah, because I like a lot of video game music, and I play a lot of rhythm games, and that's going to be hard. But go. I can spout out a bunch of them. But
my favorite is a brand new one, and it was only introduced to me since we've been streaming this video game music radio, and people have been giving requests on our Discord and the music stream request channel. Nier Automata. Almost every single track in that game is right up my alley. Those dramatic chord changes where they bring the tonic up but they flat the fifth, which is just a way of making things sound super dramatic and super epic. I love Muse. I love Rachmaninoff. I love when Chopin is dramatic and epic. And Nier Automata is just so over the top, but not over the top and cheesy. It's not like hair metal. It's just so beautiful and epic and dramatic. I love nearly every track. They go from huge overblown to like beautiful moments. Final Fantasy has a lot of great soundtracks, but I'd say track for track, Nier Automata is my new favorite.
Yeah, like video game soundtracks for me, I'll just go with the obvious one, which is Ocarina of Time, but the orchestral soundtrack. There's a whole soundtrack where they did all of Ocarina orchestrally. That's great.
Hyrule Field, that's a great theme. All the little elements that come in there.
Like, I would also say DR Extreme, too. Like, I played a lot of Dance Dance Revolution when I was younger, and those songs are forever into my brain. What I like a lot with video game music is when people take it and then either remix it into a different genre, or one of my favorite things, it's actually should be a free album download. It's called The Ocarina of Rhyme. And what they do is they take ocarina tracks and then they tempo change like really good old West Coast rap, and East Coast stuff too, and then throw it on top of it. And that's like one of my favorite video game kind of things. So I would say as a video game soundtrack, just music purely, like, yeah, Ocarina,
I'm sure there's way more that I could think of. Like Luigi's Mansion has some pretty good music in it. A lot of racing games. Grand Theft Auto, Tony Hawk. There it is. Tony Hawk's Pro Skater.
That's more of like a licensed soundtrack as opposed to, say, like a score, but
that's what I mean.
It definitely counts. It's just a different way of doing it. Zelda themes Zelda's been really strong. Final Fantasy, I think, is probably the franchise with the most great music. They seem to have some of the best.
I was also going to say Final Fantasy Theater Rhythm, which is a 3DS game, or a rhythm game that takes like all of the tracks from Final Fantasy and just makes them into a rhythm game. Like, that's a cheat because it's like every Final Fantasy song, but Final Fantasy music is real good.
I'm a sucker for, if you tell me a track is from a JRPG and it has the word town in it, then I will listen to that and I will love it. It's going to be, the thing with JRPG music is that if you look at, say, like a racing game needs to push you forward and you're only going to listen to it for a few minutes. Mario, you're just going to listen to it for a few minutes. But a JRPG track that needs to play looped for 5 minutes, 10 minutes, 15, maybe hours needs
boss fights. Yeah,
and it needs to be, I'm not talking about boss fights, but like town themes, world map themes, like resting area. Those cannot get annoying. So they layer them, and there's so much that you can hear, and they go to lots of different places. It's not designed to be catchy instantly. It's supposed to sort of grow on you, and I'm a big sucker for those kinds. And I mean, Undertale had a pretty good soundtrack too.
Yeah, Undertale was good.
But not one of my favorites. I find the rock stuff in it is a little bit obnoxious, but I love some like the more quieter, beautiful elements in it.
Ooh, this one's gonna really be a deep cut. But
okay.
LucasArts Pictures Loom.
Loom, okay.
Loom.
Yeah.
I don't know if you've ever played that or ever heard of the music. Go look up. But it's also kind of licensed because they use some other songs. But man, that's just a very good sweeping and adventurous kind of.
You're covering your mic.
I'm sorry. I'm on my phone, guys. My internet dropped out. I'm trying to work it out. I'm sorry. Yeah. But yeah, Loom is really good. Sweeping, very, very good. Adventurous. You should definitely check that out. Maybe add it to like the chill music, because Loom is pretty chill, I could say.
Absolutely. All right, we had one more question I'm not sure we can answer, and Angel of Death is a big fan of Metal Slug, and he wants to know, is there anything new from the developers of that? And I don't really think there is, and this is published by SNK. I mean, they put out versions on Steam, but I don't think that there's anything new coming out for them. I don't know.
The last thing of SNK about Metal Slug was these Neo Geo ports that came out on Switch and Xbox One and PS4, I believe, as well. I know there was a Metal Slug one on there. Previously to that, I remember there being a Metal Slug anthology for the Wii, but I can't. I mean, there was a newer Metal Slug. I think it was a Metal Slug Triple X.
There's Metal Slug 7 in 2009.
One of them was newer, and it was around the Wii kind of era. But I haven't heard of any new games. I mean, the thing about Metal Slug is it takes like that awesome kind of pixelate style and then makes it bloody, and it's really good arcadey kind of frenetic combat. I would like to see more, but I don't think they're really working.
That stuff is every frame is a new drawing. I mean, it's like making a cartoon. It's amazingly detailed work. It's really sad that the hand-drawn, basically 2D animated games they're just too much work. It's too expensive. It's a lot easier for them to make a 3D wireframe model that they can then just pose and move all around. So Metal Slug is it's just too expensive. It's why Street Fighter went the way it did. Guilty Gear might be one of the last. Guilty Gear actually kind of had a compromise where they have found a way to make it look like it's 2D animation, but they're still using these sort of basically these 3D models.
I was going to say, if SNK does anything or revives any sort of franchise, it'll probably be one of their very popular 2D fighters before anything else.
Yeah.
But Metal Slug, I get it. Yeah, Metal Slug 3 is my jam. I love that game. That game is everything I like about arcadey side-scrolling shooters. I really wish we could see. It would be really good to see like a Sonic Mania-esque kind of thing for Metal Slug, because there's a lot of games in that series.
Absolutely.
Yeah, dude, Metal Slug.
Oh yeah, great times playing that on the arcades with on the ferry boat when we go from my island to the mainland. Well, that's going to do it. Thanks, Angel of Death, Dashy's Cool, Ryan Johnson, for participating and giving us some questions and some topics to talk about. Chris Emil Gonzalez Rivera was here earlier as well. We're going to be doing more of these podcasts live. This has been Matthew Owen, who has a podcast of his own. Yeah. It's a comedy gaming podcast called Super Gamecast 64. He also writes for a90skid.com, writing reviews, news. What's the latest review that you just put up?
Put out Agents of Mayhem. That's a pretty decent review from the guys who did Saints Row, Volition. It's a new open world kind of shooter, kind of takes things from like Crackdown and Grand Theft Auto and all throws them together. So that's up there on the site. And then Sonic Mania, Observer, and a few other games will be coming very soon.
Matt, we just got a last minute question from Luigi Man 1800.
Luigi Man!
Luigi Man starts off with a bit of a sarcastic rant saying, "Thanks for notifying me, YouTube." Question. What's your least favorite game? Now, that's a really hard question to answer. And then Angel Death is trying to think of another question, but he's trying to remember the game's name from PS2. Least favorite game. I mean, game that you've played that you've just despised, or maybe a game that everybody likes that you just can't get behind. Least favorite game.
Trying to think, because the most I think it's more just genre. It's like genre problems. Like I said, like I really like stealth games, but I'm terrible at them. So people like really like games like Days, like survival shooters that are kind of stealthy and stuff like that.
Yeah.
And those like I want to like, but I suck at them. So it's very hard to like. As a gamer and as a critic, you have to be kind of objective at things. And when you're thinking about a game critically, you know, if you don't like it, there's still some redeeming qualities. And I'm trying to think like back in the day of maybe old games that people were into that I wasn't really into, but now that I think about it, I'm really like a all sort of genre gamer.
Okay, Luigi's changing the question to a game that you've played that you despise, and then Ryan Johnson is modifying it. Maybe a game with wasted potential as well.
Oh, I feel like this could be a whole video, dude. Like I feel like this could be a whole other episode. I have to really look back. You know what? Here's something I'll tell you. I have a series that I've been working on, a series of articles. Maybe the first one will pop up here soon. It depends on if I can sell it.
Okay.
It is all about my adventures of being a mid to late 2000s achievement hunter. Okay. It's very niche if you've never been into achievements or trophies or Steam trophies, but in the name of getting a higher gamer score, I have played a ton of bad games. But these are games that are objectively bad that people knew were going to be bad, like Cloudy with a Chance of Meatballs 2 and Space Chimps and Cars, which Cars, the video game, is not that bad. I got to be honest. I found that I probably played the most like mediocre games and a lot of games with wasted potential when I did that. So I'd have to go back and look.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, I've played a lot of kids games, so I have played a lot of really bad games. I never went as low as like a Hannah Montana 360 kind of, or My Horse and Me ordeal. But I played a lot of the, Avatar: The Last Airbender, all the sports games before 06. Those are all really easy for achievements. So I played a lot of crap in the name of getting achievements. I don't know if you were ever into any of that, Matt.
I'm not a grinder. I don't go for that kind of stuff. I like to just get what I can get out of it, and then I go. I don't play a game if I don't like it. I mean, I've talked about it a lot, but Final Fantasy 13 definitely wasted a lot of its potential. There's a great story, great interpersonal dynamics underneath the surface that is wasted with just, it's like they're trying to make people not like the game for the first 20 hours. So that's a big problem. I've found the wrestling games have been terrible. They went from being one of my favorite genres since on the N64 to being just crap. Just they put them out every year to get money, and they don't do anything to the system to make it feel fun or competitive or even mimic anything else of the actual sport. Other than it's just sort of like shallow, like, well, you can do everything you can do in the ring, but it doesn't actually feel like a match. They waste the potential of having an exclusive license to one of the most of a rabid fan base that has a lot of crossover. A lot of people like wrestling, like video games, and you could make even more money if these games were actually good.
As far as wasted potential goes, I want to say we talked, and I've done a whole article about the best level editors and games.
Yeah.
And one of the games that I was really excited for was Trackmania Turbo, because it's well known for being, a really good racing game, but also a game that has a lot of community behind it. And when they released the console versions of Trackmania Turbo, the whole thing with searching and finding user-created levels completely was underwhelming. It didn't do what it needed to do. And that, I could say, if they would have made the search engine and, finding and favoriting levels kind of like maybe like Super Mario Creator or whatever, Super Mario Maker did even better than Trackmania Turbo. And even Super Mario Maker had its own issues. So I'd say that recently... the most recent game that was a waste of potential was Agents of Mayhem, but go read my review because there's plenty of funny stuff about that game. I would say a lot of level editors are user-generated content games. Minecraft, I think there's a big potential for user-generated worlds that are maybe mission-based, but there's mods for that kind of stuff.
Minecraft,
if there's ever
wasted potential.
Well, yeah, because you have essentially what's an entire Lego world, right? But you don't let people create instances. You can create anything, but you can't create a mission structure. For that you have to go to mods and adventure crafts, which seems like waste of potential. You have so many people who want to make crazy things. You have these private servers that are RP and all that stuff, but it's not integrated into the game. I can understand the reasoning. I'm just saying, it's wasted potential.
I would say the Super Mario RPG Paper Mario games that have gotten so far away from what people actually enjoy about the series, and that
Paper Mario.
Yeah, like people want a humorous story. They want it to have these RPG mechanics. They want that timing-based, turn-based system that South Park used.
Sticker Star.
Yeah, people don't want to collect stickers and use them, and then and can only use a sticker to defeat a certain enemy and all this crap. From the chat about what I had said about Final Fantasy 13, Angel Death says, I agree the Final Fantasy 13 has so much potential, and Luigi Man says, such a waste of potential until later on. I agree. Doesn't stop it from being a pretty decent game, though. That's true. The combat system is so good, and the last half of the game is so good. It's a shame that so many people will not see it, and it's a shame that many people will probably not even play a Final Fantasy game. Don't cover your microphone there, buddy.
Man, I don't even know where the heck this thing is. I'm like
now
trying to hold my phone.
It sounds great now.
Hey.
It sounds great.
Hey.
It sounds great.
I'm so sorry. The next time I will not, hopefully I won't have to log off and then come on my phone to finish the
I hope you clean it off. Well, that's, it's a live stream. It's live. It's wild. It's raw. You're smoking a cigarette.
Who knows what'll happen?
Yeah,
dude.
What's happening with
I'm
that?
in my dirty watch. Whoa.
Yeah. All right, well, that's going to do it for this one. We're going to be, if Matt has time, we're going to be coming up with a video all about the Super NES Classic, the Super Nintendo Classic, so stay tuned if you want to see that. Do you have time for that, Matt, tonight?
I think it's more about whether or not my internet's working, because I'm on 4G
Oh, that's
now.
right. Okay,
yeah.
well...
that video will definitely be a thing. It's 100% a thing.
It's coming.
Whether or not it's today or tomorrow, yeah.
It's coming down the pipeline. All right, Matt, thank you for joining us. Thank you to everybody who participated and made it better through the chat. Luigi Man, Angel Death, Ryan Johnson. Who else?
Shouts.
Dashy is cool.
Yeah.
Chris Yamil
John.
Gonzalez Rivera. Fantastic.
Nice.
You guys never let me down. Wonderful. Ryan Johnson says that
We'll
sneaky
see.
joke in there. Nice. Thank you. Dirty little joke.
That's me winking.
All right. Well, thanks, everybody. You can follow me on Twitter at GameThinkTalk. We are both at a90skid.com. And Matt, what's your Twitter?
At Super Gamecast 64 for my podcast Twitter. But if you want to talk to me personally, it's at SGC 64 Matt.
All right,
That's where I'm at.
everybody. You guys have a great one. And bye for now.